My 17-year-old son told me, "You're not my real father, just my ATM." This story addresses one of the most searched topics on YouTube in 2024 to 2025. Generation Z. Materialistic teenagers, divorced parents being used by their children, and the crisis of values in modern youth. It's a subject that generates millions of views because it resonates with desperate parents across Latin America. Andres Martinez was 43 years old when his son Mateo said the words that would shatter his soul. It was Friday night. Andres had worked all day at his construction business, exhausted to the bone, but he had promised to take 17-year-old Mateo to buy the new iPhone 17 Pro Max the boy had been asking for weeks. "Ready, son?" Andres asked with a smile, car keys in hand. Mateo didn't even look up from his current phone. "Yeah, hurry up. I'm meeting my friends in an hour." On the way to the store, Andres tried to make conversation. "How was school this week?" "Fine." A monosyllabic answer, eyes glued to TikTok. "Do you have homework for the weekend?" "Uh-huh." "Mateo, can you put the phone down for a moment? I want to talk to you." The boy sighed dramatically, as if he had been asked for the greatest sacrifice in the world. "What?" "Dad, I just don't know how to talk. We haven't had a real conversation in weeks." "Dad, don't start with the drama. We're going to get the iPhone, right? What else do you want?" Andres felt a stab in his chest but ignored it. "I want to spend time with my son." "We are spending time." Mateo went back to his phone. At the Apple Store, the phone cost $1,200. Andres felt the weight in his wallet, but he paid. He always paid. After the divorce 3 years earlier, he had developed a pattern, compensating for his guilt with money, with things, with whatever Mateo asked for. "Thanks, Dad," Mateo said, without looking up as he activated the new device. On the drive back, Andres tried once more. "Mateo, I've been thinking. How about we go camping this weekend? Like when you were little. Just you and me." Mateo looked at him as if he had suggested traveling to Mars. "Camping? Seriously, Dad? I'm 17, not 7. Besides, I have plans." "What plans?" "Going out with my friends, you know. And I can't cancel." "Just this once, so we can spend time together." "Dad," Mateo interrupted irritably, "why do you want to go camping? To make yourself feel better about the divorce? That was 3 years ago. Get over it." The words felt like slaps. Andres took a deep breath. "It's not about the divorce. It's because you're my son, and I miss you." "Well, I don't miss you," Mateo replied. "And I want you to drop me off at my mom's house, not your apartment." "But this is my weekend with you. It's in the custody agreement. You can't force me. I'm 17. The judge would let me choose." Andres felt his throat tighten. "Mateo, what happened? When did you start hating me?" "I don't hate you, Dad," Mateo said, still on his phone. "It's just, let's be honest. We don't have anything in common. You're from another generation, and frankly, I'd rather be with my friends than listen to you talk about the old days or whatever." "So what am I here for? Just to buy you things?" Mateo finally looked at him directly, and what he said next would change everything. "Basically, yeah. You're not my real father. You're like my ATM. You pay for stuff. That's it." The silence that followed was deafening. Andres felt as if his heart had been ripped out. He pulled the car over, trembling. "That's what I am to you? An ATM?" Mateo shrugged. "You asked. I was just being honest." Andres dropped Mateo off at his ex-wife Patricia's house and drove to his apartment on autopilot, tears blurring his vision. Once home, he collapsed. How had it come to this? His son, the boy who once looked at him like a superhero, now saw him as a money-dispensing machine. He called Patricia. "We need to talk about Matteo." "What happened now?" she asked, sounding tired. "He told me I'm just his ATM, that I'm not his real father." Patricia sighed. "Andres, he's a teenager. They say hurtful things. No, this is different. He meant it. And I think part of it is my fault. Since the divorce, I've been trying to buy his love. I give him everything he asks for. I never say no." "Well, I'm guilty too," Patricia admitted. "I give him everything as well. It's easier than setting boundaries." "So what do we do? Keep going like this until he goes to college and never speaks to us again?" "I don't know, Andres. Honestly, I don't know." That night, Andres couldn't sleep. At 3 a.m., he was online desperately searching how to reconnect with a teenage son who only wants money. Among the results was an article about Stoic philosophy and fatherhood. It quoted Marcus Aurelius, who had been emperor of Rome but also a father to several children, some problematic. "We cannot control our children," Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations. "We can only control what kind of father we choose to be." Andres kept reading. The article spoke about Cato the Younger, another Stoic who had set clear boundaries with his children precisely because he loved them. Love without discipline is not love. It is complicity in the destruction of character. For the first time in 3 years, Andres began to understand that he had been doing everything backward. He hadn't been a good father by giving Matteo everything. He had been a cowardly father, buying temporary peace at the cost of his son's character. On Monday morning, Andres made a radical decision. He canceled all the credit cards he had given Matteo. He canceled the unlimited data plan on the new iPhone. He called Patricia. "We need to sit down with him together." "About what?" "About how we're ruining our son." She was silent for a moment. "You're right." That afternoon, they sat Matteo down at the table. He arrived defensive. "What did I do now?" "Nothing," Andres said calmly. "This is about what we've done, and what we're going to change." "Great. Another lecture." Matteo rolled his eyes. "Matteo," Patricia said firmly, "you're going to listen without interrupting." Something in her tone made him pay attention. "This weekend," Andres began, "you told me I'm just your ATM. And you know what? You're right. That's exactly what I've become. Your mom too. Since the divorce, we've been buying your tolerance instead of earning your respect. I've given you everything you ask for, the most expensive iPhone, brand-name clothes, unlimited money. And what have I received in return? Disdain. Indifference. Not even a real conversation. Dad, I didn't. Let me finish. I bought you the iPhone because I was afraid. Afraid that if I didn't give you what you wanted, you'd hate me even more. But here's the truth I just learned. You already treat me like you hate me. So I have nothing to lose by setting boundaries." Matteo began to realize this was different. "What do you mean by boundaries?" "It means," Patricia continued, "no more free money. No more buying whatever you want whenever you want. No more unlimited data plan." "What? You can't do that." "Yes, we can," Andres said calmly. "We're your parents, and we've been failing you by giving you everything and teaching you nothing." "This is ridiculous. All my friends have unlimited phones." "Then maybe all their parents are making the same mistake we did." Matteo was furious. "How am I supposed to use my phone without data?" "With Wi-Fi, like people did 5 years ago," Andres replied. "This isn't abuse. This is parenting, and I should have practiced it a long time ago." "I hate you. You're the worst parents in the world." Matteo shouted, storming to his room and slamming the door. Patricia looked at Andres with tears in her eyes. "Do you think we're doing the right thing?" "I don't know," Andres admitted. "But I know what we were doing was definitely wrong." The following days were war. Mateo wouldn't speak to Andres. On his custody weekends, he refused to go. Andres called his lawyer. Legally, at 17, judges often consider the minor's preference. He hung up feeling defeated, but then he remembered something he had read from Epictetus. We cannot control the actions of others, only our own actions and whether we act with virtue. He couldn't force Mateo to love or respect him, but he could control whether he remained a weak father or became a principled one. He wrote a letter. "Son, I can't force you to come to my apartment. I can't force you to love or respect me. But I will not continue buying your affection. From now on, my money is available for needs, not luxuries. Food, reasonable clothing, education, I will always pay for those. But $1,000 phones, brand-name clothes, expensive outings with friends, that's over. If you want those things, you'll need to get a part-time job, like I did at your age. I'm not doing this to punish you. I'm doing it because I love you. And loving you means preparing you for real life, not a bubble of privilege where everything falls from the sky. When you're ready for a real relationship with me, father and son, not customer, I'll be here. With love, Dad." 2 weeks later, Mateo needed money to go out with friends. He called Andres. "Dad, I need money for a movie and dinner." "No." "What?" I said no. That's a luxury, not a necessity. Everyone's going. I can't be the only one who doesn't. Then get a job. I'm 17. Who's going to hire me? I started working construction at 14. There are part-time jobs in supermarkets and restaurants. If you want money for luxuries, earn it. Mateo hung up furious. 2 hours later, his mother also told him no. For the first time in his life, there was no easy money. A week later, something changed. Mateo showed up at Andres' apartment on a Friday night, his custody weekend, though he had skipped the last 3. "Can I come in?" he asked, less arrogant. "Of course." Mateo sat on the couch nervously. "I got a job at McDonald's. 4 hours after school." "That's great, son." "Yeah. I needed the money. And you're right, they hired me." "How do you feel about it?" "Exhausted. I've worked 2 days and I'm already dead. And I only made a little. Welcome to the real world." After a long silence, Mateo said something Andres never expected. "Dad, the iPhone you bought me, how many hours did you work to pay for it?" "About 80 hours. I'd have to work around 100 hours at McDonald's to buy that phone. And I didn't even thank you. I complained you didn't bring an extra charger." Andres felt tears forming but held them back. "I'm not telling you this to make you feel guilty. I know. But I feel guilty anyway. I've been an idiot, right? You were a spoiled kid who was given everything without being taught the value of anything. That's my fault. But I'm the one who said you were my ATM." His voice broke. "That was horrible. It was honest. And even though it hurt, I needed to hear it." Mateo wiped his eyes. "Why are you being so calm?" "Because I've been learning about Stoic philosophy, about controlling what I can control and letting go of what I can't. I can't control how you treat me, but I can control what kind of father I am." For the first time in years, they had a real conversation. Andres spoke about Marcus Aurelius, about Epictetus, about the dichotomy of control, about how these ancient philosophers endured terrible circumstances while maintaining inner peace. Mateo listened. Really listened. "So basically," Mateo said slowly, "you're saying you can't control if I'm a jerk to you, but you can control whether you're a good dad anyway." Andres laughed. "Basically, Yes. That's wise, Dad. It was the first time in years Matteo called him Dad with genuine affection instead of sarcasm. The changes weren't immediate or perfect. Matteo was still a teenager. He still made mistakes. But something fundamental had shifted. He began coming to custody weekends without fighting. Not always in a good mood, but he came. He worked at McDonald's and, for the first time in his life, understood the value of money. One day he arrived excited. Dad, I saved $300. It took 5 weeks, but I did it. And what are you going to do with it? Part of me wants to save it. But part of me, we could go to dinner. My treat. To apologize for everything. They went to a modest restaurant. Matteo insisted on paying the $40 bill. Andres watched as his son checked the receipt, calculated the tip, and paid with his own hard-earned cash. You know, Matteo said as they left, this feels different. When you paid, I just ordered the most expensive thing without thinking. Now that it's my money, every dollar matters. That's exactly the lesson you needed to learn. Did you know I'd learn it when you cut me off? I hoped. But I wasn't sure. The Stoics talk about doing what's right without being attached to the outcome. I had to be a better father without any guarantee it would work. 6 months later, Matteo turned 18. He was legally an adult. There was no longer a custody agreement forcing him to see his father. On the morning of his birthday, Andres didn't know if Matteo would come. He had learned to let go of expectations. But at 9 a.m., there was a knock at the door. It was Matteo. Happy birthday, son. Thanks, Dad. Can we talk? They sat with coffee. I've been thinking a lot. I'm legally an adult now. You're not obligated to support me or see me anymore. And I want you to know that from now on, if I come to see you, it's because I want to. Not because of a divorce agreement or because I need money. But because you're my dad, and I love you. Andres couldn't hold back the tears. And there's something else. Matteo pulled a book from his backpack. It was Meditations. I bought this with my own money. I've been reading it. It's hard, but I think I get it. And I'd like us to read it together. Like a father-son book club. Andres hugged his son for the first time in what felt like years. This time, Matteo didn't stiffen or pull away. He hugged him back. A year later, Matteo was in college. He had earned a partial scholarship and worked part-time to cover the rest. Andres helped where he could, but Matteo insisted on contributing. He called his father regularly, not to ask for money, but to talk, to seek advice, to share his life. One day, Matteo brought his girlfriend to meet Andres. During dinner, she said, Matteo talks about you all the time. He says you're his hero. Hero? Andres asked, surprised. Matteo blushed. Dad, when I was 17, I thought a good father was the one who gave you everything you wanted. Now I understand that a good father is the one who teaches you what you need, even if it hurts. You taught me the most important lessons when you stopped giving me easy money. I just did what I should have done from the beginning. No, Matteo shook his head. You did something much harder. You changed. You admitted you were wrong and changed at 43. That's heroic. That night, Andres wrote in his journal, another Stoic practice he had adopted. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It is never too late to begin improving yourself." He was right. At 43, I became the father I should have been from the beginning, and I almost lost my son in the process. But the Stoics also teach that the obstacle is the way. Matteo calling me his ATM was the most painful obstacle, but it was also the path to our real relationship. Final reflection. Stoic teachings on modern fatherhood. The story of Andres and Matteo teaches vital lessons about parenting in the digital and materialistic age. First lesson. Love is not the absence of limits. Andres believed loving Matteo meant giving him everything. The Stoics taught the opposite. True love includes discipline and boundaries. Cato the Younger said, "Love without limits is not love, it is destructive indulgence." Second lesson, you cannot control your children, only yourself as a parent. Andres couldn't control whether Matteo respected or loved him, but he could control whether he acted as a principled father. This is the dichotomy of control applied to parenting. Third lesson, it's never too late to change. At 43, Andres completely transformed his approach to fatherhood. The Stoics believed transformation is always possible if you have the courage to admit your mistakes. Fourth lesson, suffering, properly used, is a teacher. The pain of hearing, "You're my ATM," destroyed Andres, but it also awakened him and pushed him to change. The obstacle became the way. This story resonates especially with modern parents facing Generation Z, hyper-connected, often materialistic, frequently disrespectful. It reminds us that the solution is not to give up or continue indulging, but to have the courage to be real parents, even if that means temporary conflict to build lasting character. Are you interested in Stoicism, personal growth, and life stories? Then subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any videos. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media platforms to stay connected with our community. Join the family of Stoic Stories.